my fan on my computer, my laptop over here, has started making a whole lot of noise. Now look, I don't know if it's going to start making a whole lot of noise later, but it was pretty bad a few days ago, to the point that I haven't been recording any videos, didn't play any poker on Sunday, watched the Super Bowl. But if it gets bad, we may have to call the show. We'll see. Hopefully it causes no issues. You all let me know how it sounds, please, because I cannot necessarily tell. So, let me know if this sound is bearable. I actually have James's pillow, my son's pillow, on top of the laptop to hopefully dampen the sound. I know that may start a fire. I don't care. I'm willing to start a fire for all of you. Is a little coffee. When does this show take place? This show takes place on Mondays, bright and early, 9 a.m. Having our brain fuel. I'm going to be working with them going forward most likely. Almost certainly. I love the drink. As poker players, to sound like an ad, as poker players, you want to make sure you have good energy. And a cup of coffee in the morning plus a brain fuel afterwards, ooh, that gets me going. All right. Today, we are going to be discussing various short-stacked strategies. Okay? These charts are available at pokercoaching.com. You can get a free trial membership to pokercoaching.com at pokercoaching.com/free. You will not have access to all of these charts. These are part of the premium membership. That said, if you're a premium member, this stuff is just included. The way you access it is you go to the tools section. Just click right here in the tools section. It'll bring up this page here, and then here are the GTO tournament charts, which is what we're going to be discussing today. And then we also have GTO cash game charts for 100, 150, and 200 big blind poker. I'll show you those real quick. As you see, we can go through all sorts of spots, 100, 150, or 200 big blind deep with no ante in play. Host from Rad Dad Poker. Thanks, Rad Dad Poker. I hope you're having a great day. Thank you very much for that. Today, though, we're going to be discussing shallow stacked play, okay? This is a spot where a lot of people really play poorly. What a lot of people do is they get out a push-fold chart, like this one here. This is free push-fold chart. There's no reason for you to ever pay money for a push-fold chart. We can have a free one. This is a spot which is usually fine to use when you have something like 10 big blinds or fewer, okay? If you have 10 big blinds or fewer, a push-fold chart is probably fine, as I'm about to show you. But what a lot of people do wrong is they go over here to the 20 big blind push-fold chart, and that's when it really starts to fall apart, and I'm going to show you that as we move forward. Okay, first things first. Let's close out all these tabs I do not need. Okay. Here we have 10 big blind GTO poker strategy under the gun. The way you navigate to this is you select 10 big blinds. Position is under the gun. RFI. RFI means raise first in. Can you all see this? Is anybody here today? If anybody's here today, click the like button so I know that you're here. If I know that you're here, I'm way more inclined to do the show than if it's just me talking to myself, because I already know all this stuff. All right. Looks like we do have at least 6 or 8 people here. Good. Okay. This is a spot where, take a look at this. Most people just use the shove or fold strategy. And to be fair, it's probably fine. You're not losing all that much EV by doing it. Let's actually go over here and take a look at 10 big blind. Under the gun. Shoving strategy, you should shove 13.4% of hands. Using this strategy, you get to play slightly wider, right? You get to play, call it 17% of hands. Actually like a solid 20-ish percent increase, 25% increase, which is actually kind of a lot if you think about it. Poker Cult with a Prime sub. Welcome. If you are watching on Twitch, by the way, and you have Amazon Prime, you get to subscribe to one person each month for free. It costs you no money. I'm not saying to give it to me. Give it to whoever you want to give it to out there. And the streamers will appreciate it. You might as well give away the free money if you have it to give away. All right. Take a look at this. The GTO strategy is to min raise. That is the light pink color here. You're supposed to min raise aces, kings, queens sometimes, jacks sometimes, ace, king suited sometimes. And then also min raise some bluffs that you plan on folding to a shove. Ace 6 suited, ace 9 offsuit, ace 8 offsuit, king jack offsuit, queen jack offsuit. I gotta presume if you min raise 5s and 4s, you're gonna fold it to a shove. I can actually show you how to figure that out using these charts. We select 10 big blinds under the gun versus an all-in. Select the opponent's position. Let's say that's the button. You see you actually call off with these hands. So Remember how I just said these are the hands you min raise? These are the hands that you min raise some portion of the time. This is selected so you can see the whole cell here. But you see, if you min raise with 4s and 5s and 8s, you call it off. If you min raise ace jack offsuit and king jack offsuit, ace 8 suited, or ace 8 suited and ace 7 suited, you call it off. But you fold ace 6 suited, ace 9 offsuit, ace 8 offsuit. You fold the worst hands in your raising range, right? And a lot of people look at this and say, why in the world would you raise to 2 big blinds out of your 10 big blind stack and then fold? That's crazy. Well, the logic is that your opponents have to jam very tightly because, I mean, look how strong our range is, right? Our range contains all these good hands to begin with. And even our bluffs with like 4s and 5s and 8s are fine. And you see like a6 suited is a bluff that we end up folding, and a6 suited is probably very dominated, right? And then the shoving range is all these hands in dark red, right? All these hands in dark red like to go all in, everything else folds. Okay? So the question is, should we just use the shove fold strategy? And I don't think it's all that bad. I think it's probably fine to use the shove fold strategy with the free Poker Coaching Push Fold app. This is available for everyone. Just download the Poker Coaching app. You can use this on your phone. We designed it to be really easy to use. Let me show you what you have to do. Imagine this on your phone. It works just the same way on your phone. You click fold if you fold this hand. Like let's say you're dealt king 8 offsuit and you fold. You press fold, and then it puts you in the big blind on the next hand. And if you scroll down here, there are calling ranges based on what your opponent shoves with. Let's say you fold the next hand, you click fold, you lose a big blind, and it puts you in the small blind. Now, maybe you will have to adjust this slightly if there's a ante size. Maybe your ante gets bigger or smaller depending on exactly where you are. That's really easy. You just click the negative button here and it moves you down a big blind. Let's say you fold again. Now you're on the button with 7 big blinds because you took the blinds and antes. Let's say you shove and they all fold. Puts you in the next seat with 9 big blinds. So basically you just get to follow along as you play with roughly your stack size, right? Which is nice and easy. And this is certainly fine to use when you have 10 big blinds or fewer. But that's not necessarily what we're talking about today. We're talking about when we're slightly deeper than that. And this is where a lot of people go wrong because they still use the shove fold chart. And that's a big error. If you've been using a shove fold chart, whenever you have more than 10 big blinds, you are torching your money. And I don't want you to torch your money. What you do depends a lot on your opponent's strategy. Of course it does. But it's very important to make sure that you are playing fundamentally sound poker to begin with. That way you know how to adjust to account for whatever your opponents do wrong. For example, let's say you do use this strategy here, and you min raise ace 7 suited, or ace 8 suited. By the way, you can see what percentage of the time you raise here with each cell. You see ace 7 suited min raises 1% of the time. Basically means none. But let's say you do raise the ace 8 suited. We already showed you that you're supposed to call off against the button shove. But what if you know the player on the button only goes all in with aces, kings, queens, jacks, and ace king? Well, if they only go all in with aces, kings, queens, jacks, and ace king, then of course you fold. You gotta use a little common sense, okay? Poker requires a little bit of common sense. And the great thing about poker is that if you know exactly what your opponent's doing, we're essentially playing chess. You can just find the right answer. Use the computer to find the right answer. Fortunately, in poker, it's easy. It's just a simple math problem. I presume all of you can do simple math problems. If you cannot, check out pokercoaching.com/fundamentals. That is a free Mastering the Fundamentals course. I try to give you all of the tools you need to succeed for free. It costs you $0. Go to pokercoaching.com/fundamentals. If your retort to, oh, well, it depends on what your opponents do, if that's your retort, it implies that you do not know how to do the simple math, because if you know what your opponents do, life's easy, right? But I presume you don't know what your opponents do. I presume your opponents are trying to make your life difficult. If I need help keeping your computer quiet, letting me know. I actually bought a new computer. Want to keep your computer quiet? Get a different one. It'll be here on Wednesday. But, I figured we'd go ahead and do the show today. Let me know if it sounds bad. I think it actually sounds not so terrible, right? I think it's not so bad. I have a pillow on top of it. I was looking up ways to make the computer quiet, and it turns out I need to take the computer apart and put oil in it, as far as I can tell. Which I am not nearly an expert to do. Nearly expert enough to do. Okay, so anyway, fine. Under the gun, 10 big blind strategy. I am A-okay with you using this range. I would never complain if you use this. I would also not complain if you wanted to shove it all in. Let's take a look at Hijack Strategy, okay? Hijack Strategy. Now, we're just open jamming basically everything. Why, you may ask? Well, whenever you min raise from middle position and then get shoved on, the shover's range is going to be presumably a little bit wider, right? And if the shover's range is a little bit wider, you're now going to be getting the right price to call off if you min raise and then face a shove. And, that's that makes this open shoving a little bit better. And you can go over here and confirm. If we look at, let's say, 10 big blinds and the hijack, you see it's going to be like the same rough range, 30-ish% of hands, 27-ish% of hands. Why are we off by a touch? Oh, this has slightly more money in the pot. Is that right? Slightly more money in the pot. Whatever, very close. Okay, maybe this is assuming 8-handed. 8-handed with a small ante. So ante smaller here. That makes sense, right? Clean the fan. Yeah, I already cleaned the fan. To fully clean the fan on my computer, they have to take the computer all the way apart, which, I do not know how to do. Please don't put oil in it. Well, I don't mean vegetable oil, or olive oil, or grapeseed oil. I mean sewing machine oil. Apparently wants you to put a dot of sewing machine oil into your computer. Go figure. Who'd have thought? I'm not doing it, though. Just going to get a new computer instead. Computer's kind of old. Got it in 2017 anyway. It's probably time for a new one. Anyway. Okay. Here we are. Now let's look at from the button. Button has an interesting strategy where you want to start min-raising some of your really junky hands again. So like the middle positions are kind of weird in that you can't really get away with min-raise folding all that often, and you are going to be getting jammed on a lot. Here, from the button though, when you min-raise button, small blind and big blind will actually call you a decent amount of the time. Let me actually show you big blind strategy versus a raise from the button. Okay? And you're going to see here, they actually are supposed to call a ton. Did you know that? Did you know whenever someone raises 10 big blinds deep from the button, you're supposed to call a lot? And you may say, why aren't you calling even wider? Well, the reason is because the GTO button preflop min-raising range is actually really, really strong, right? As I just showed you, which means you can't call with all these marginal hands. You may say, you can't even call 9-8 offsuit. Not if your opponent's using the GTO strategy. If they are not using the GTO strategy, though, if they're just min-raising a lot, then yeah, you get to call way wider. Always make sure you understand what the opponent's strategy is and what the GTO output's going to be, because the GTO output is based on the initial raising range to begin with. Okay? Anyway, back over here to button raising range. You see, you do still have some min raises, mainly King X blockers, Queen X blockers, and that's about it. A few Ace X blockers, etc. Okay? Let's now look at small blind strategy, 10 big blinds deep. What do you think it's going to say? You think we're going to be doing only all-in or fold? This is one of the spots, by the way. Where no, you do not do only all-in or fold. Let's actually go over here, look at small blind all-in or fold strategy. There we go. So it's to shove 72% of hands, okay? Here is the GTO small blind strategy. Take a look at this mess. Here, we're supposed to shove all the hands in red and limp all the hands in green. And the logic here is we're limping all of the best hands that can limp and then call it off. All these hands that are limping on the top are limping and calling it off. Mostly pairs, big suited connected cards, etc. And then we have a lot of hands that are limping and then folding. A lot of junky suited hands, a lot of bad offsuit hands. You may say, no min raise. Why no min raise? So this is where you have to ask, how complicated do we want to make our strategy? Because in theory, the real GTO strategy uses all the bet sizes a tiny portion of the time, which is not practical. So whenever you are going to solve for a roughly GTO strategy, you have to give the computer a few options, the solver a few options, right? And we've solved this for both min-raising and limping and shoving, and it turns out this strategy yields basically the same amount of profit as a much more difficult strategy that also involves min-raises. So you always have to ask, like, am I willing to give up some amount of equity in exchange for making my strategy a million times easier to play? And the answer usually should be yes. A good example is Under the Gun, right? I just sit here and told you that Under the Gun, 10 big blinds deep, I'm A-okay with you shoving or folding and not having a min-raising range. Gives up a little bit of equity, but it's probably worth it because it's way, way, way easier to implement that strategy. Okay? So anyway, this is a scenario where you want to be doing a pretty good amount of limping, okay? And most people do not do a pretty good amount of limping. And if they do limp here, going back to the idea of, well, it depends on what your opponent does. Ha ha, look how smart we are. It depends on what your opponent does. If your opponent's limp only garbage, then your strategy is really easy, right? You just shove a lot in the big blind. If your opponent's strategy is to limp only good hands and trap you a lot, obviously you don't shove at all, right? So again, use a little bit of common sense. I'm going to presume you here, if you are a shark, you are here, you have a little bit of common sense, you know that if your opponent plays really, really poorly, you should be exploiting them, okay? But again, we are presuming that our opponents are not playing really, 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 really poorly. And if they are, you don't need me to tell you what to do, and because it's not hard, right? So anyway, what should big blind do against small blind limp? We can go over here, click big blind versus limp from small blind. Woo-wee, look at this mess. We have another mess here on our hands. What a weird strategy, am I right? All right, so against the limp, you're supposed to be jamming all the ace X, lots of king X, some queen X, some jack X. What a mess. 3s and 2s, some total stone bluffs. And you may say, why in the world would you do this? Well, basically the ace X and the king X are the main hands you're jamming. These are probably the best hand, right? And this is a situation where when your opponent does limp, their range is usually pretty weak, and the fact that you have an ace or a king makes it harder for them to have their premium range, right? Let's go back to small blind. Notice all the hands that are limping. A lot of these are strong ace highs and king highs, right? And notice these hands in the middle are all behind ace high and king high, which is kind of interesting. And the pairs, yeah, you're behind those. We have a solid 3 outs, which is reasonable. And all these weaker hands are going to fold. So this is kind of cool to see. You guys hear my computer getting louder? I can hear it getting louder. Probably doesn't like having a pillow on top of it, huh? Turns out, computers don't like being smothered. All right. Versus an all-in. From the small blind, your strategy is probably going to be pretty logical. Just call it your best hands, fold your garbage, right? Does this all make sense? Right? Just call off with your best hands, fold your garbage. You may be surprised to see like king 2 offsuit calling here, but 10 big blinds deep when small blind shoves, king 2 offsuit is a call in most scenarios. Obviously, again, depends on your opponent's strategy, right? If they only shove the nuts, then obviously fold king 2. But that is the GTO strategy, 10 big blinds deep. So what I want to do is I want to go back to under the gun, and I want to show you the difference between 10 big blind and then other stack depths. What is this tool? This tool is available on pokercoaching.com. If you're a Poker Coaching Premium member, it's just included. We have all sorts of stuff included at pokercoaching.com. If you are a free member, pokercoaching.com/free to get a free trial membership. A few of these options will be available for you, but not all of them. But if you are a premium member, you have access to all of these stack depths for tournaments. You also have cash game charts, 100, 115, 200 big blinds deep to make sure you are not screwing up any of the common spots. Oh, one more thing someone wanted me to mention. Why are we shoving the small pairs but not the big pairs in this scenario? Notice the types of hands that do shove, okay? The types of hands that shove are the hands that are probably best at the moment, but will not necessarily play all that well post-flop. Those are going to be hands like 6s, 5s, 4s, 3s, and 2s. These are almost always the best hand, right? Same thing with ace X. Same thing with king X, right? Notice all these ace X and king X's are shoving because they are probably the best hand at the moment. But if they see the flop, say it does come 9, 8, 6, and you have king jack, it's not great, right? So you'd rather just open shove these hands. Then you get to mix in some various bluffs that have reasonable equity because you're shoving a lot of best hands. So the hands that are usually shoving are the hands that have pretty high equity, plus some bluffs. And the hands that are usually min-raising are the hands that are really good and the hands that are really bad. Okay? What's the min-raise size on these charts? I believe it is a min-raise is what we are using in these scenarios. How does the stream not get 1,000 viewers? Well, it's probably better for you if nobody watches this, right? I don't mind giving up a little bit to make the loyal viewers more money. That said, if you have any friends, tell them to come. Might as well. All right. Let's go back over here and look at 10 big blind charts. Is this poker snowy? No. These are charts that we made. Cost me loads of money. Whenever you make these charts, you have to rent a server and run the server for long periods of time. Okay. 10 big blinds deep. Under the gun. Let's look at this compared to 12 big blinds. Okay? Take a look at this. So under the gun, remember, by the way, the reason I'm showing you this is because I said you really do not want to use shove or fold charts where your only options are all in or fold when you're playing more than 10 big blinds deep, and I'm about to show you why, right? 10 big blinds deep, you see your strategy is to mostly shove, right? Mostly shove in all positions. We already showed that. Primarily shove 10 big blinds deep. You're not making that big of a mistake by not just open jamming. Okay, 12 big blinds deep though. Now take a look at this. The range is roughly split. 8% of the time you're shoving, 7.7% of the time you are min raising. It's actually a kind of a reasonable amount of the time, right? And this results in you being able to play about 16% of hands, right? If we go over here to the shove fold chart, you only get to play about 14 or 13% of hands, right? From under the gun / under the gun +1. So you get to play an extra % or 2 of hands by using the closer to Gto strategy of min raise or shove, right? And that lets you play 1 or 2% more hands. You may say 1% more hands, 2% more hands, that's not all that relevant. Until you realize 2% on top of 14% is actually a pretty substantial increase. Let me show you with a calculator. Again, I'm not all that smart. I don't know math all that well, but I do know how to do a little bit. Let's see. There we go. Look at that beautiful calculator. 2 divided by 14 equals 14% more hands you get to play, roughly. 14% more hands profitably is a substantial increase in the number of hands you get to play profitably. And that's going to result in you making more money than your opponents. And I want you all to make more money than your opponents. So, this is a spot where you definitely do want to start using a min raise or fold strategy. Unfortunately, it's actually very easy to implement, right? You min raise your best hands. 10s and better, ace jack suited better, right? Ace king offsuit and better. Nice and easy. And then you min raise some ace x suited bluffs, king 9 suited, queen 9 suited, queen jack offsuit, ace 10 offsuit, ace 9 offsuit. And you shove everything else. Shove all the other good suited connected hands, good high card hands, etc. And you'll find that these patterns persist over and over and over again in these scenarios. Like if we look at under the gun +1, it's going to be roughly the same thing. Just slightly wider shoving ranges, right? Right? So you see now it's 9.7% all in, 8% min raise. So you end up jamming just a little bit more as you get in later and later positions. Let's look at hijack. You see hijack now. Same hands are roughly min raising, right? The absolute best hands plus some blockers. And again, like ace 5, ace 6, ace 7, ace 8, king 9, queen 10. All these hands are min raising and then folding. And then you're just shoving the best hands. Ace x suiteds. Well, low ace x suiteds mostly. Good suited high card hands. Big ace x offsuit. King, queen jack. And then the pairs. Right? And remember, someone asked earlier, why are you shoving like 2s and not jacks? Because jacks is good enough to min raise and see a flop and play from there, or min raise and then call a shove, no problem. Whenever you min raise 2s and get jammed on, it's actually not all that great. Attempting to try to put all these charts to memory seems daunting. Oh, lucky for you, you don't have to memorize them. Did you all know we have a poker coaching app? I'm going to pull it up on my phone. It's going to take me 1 second. I'm pulling it up right now as we speak. With any luck, this will function properly. I'm going to pull up the exact same chart I have right here, and I'm going to show you how long it takes for me to pull this up. I actually clicked on the wrong one. Exact same chart I pulled up on my phone, and that amount of time. It took me, what, 1 second to go, or it took me like literally 10 seconds to go from having that thought to opening the app and pulling up the exact same chart on my phone. Did I show you the wrong one? We're in the hijack seat. Here we go. Sorry, showed you the wrong one. I thought we were under the gun +1 still. There you go. You see it? Exact same chart. All of these charts are available on your phone. If you're a poker coaching premium member, all of this stuff is right here at your fingertips. So, you can't use this type of thing while you're playing in a hand, but if you know that, let's say you're going to be in the hijack seat with 12 big blinds on the next hand, you would be a fool to not get out your phone and reference the chart. That way you know, all right, if I get 6s, I rip it all in. I don't min raise it, right? Or if I get 9s, I shove it all in. I don't min raise it, right? You want to use a little bit of common sense. You want to use the tools that are available to you. And if you're a poker coaching premium member, here it is, right here on the phone, available for you. It's just included. I know everybody else has these training sites that want to start charging you more money for all of these add-ons and all this stuff. I saw a site the other day, it charges $500 a month for their membership, but if you want access to their charts, it's an extra $50 a month or something. It's like, come on, vigging them to tears, right? We all got to make a living, I get that. But at the same time, I'm not trying to vig you to tears. I realize all of you are up-and-coming sharks, right? A lot of you are not making millions of dollars from poker yet, and I'm not going to try to charge you $8,000 per year to use fewer tools that are available than what we have. All right, anyway, we have any information on PKO tournaments. There's a lot of information on PKO tournaments at pokercoaching.com. Make sure you check that out. How do you adjust your strategies? Well, you shove with a slightly different set of hands. You usually end up shoving tighter when you're shallower stacked than you normally would because you know you lack fold equity, right? Do you use DTO? I did for a while, and I think it's not all that applicable unless you're playing really, really high-stakes games. And the reason is because people don't start off with the right ranges preflop to begin with, which is a bit of a problem, right? If people are using very, very different preflop ranges than the GTO tool recommends, the postflop recommendations are just going to be way, way, way off. Like I just showed you, right? Whenever you're in the big blind, 10 big blinds deep, if the button min raises a ton, you should call way wider than if they min raise the GTO strategy, right? Can you use these apps in live tournaments? Yes, I just showed you how to do it. I pulled up this exact chart in 5 seconds, right? Shouldn't live tournaments ban these apps? That's the tough thing about this, right? So the publisher, D&B Poker, is a very, very strong chess player. He walked into a poker tournament for the first time and saw everybody playing on their phones. He's like, oh my god, everybody's using charts while they play. I'm like, no, they're all sexting and watching Netflix out here, right? I mean, they're not looking up these charts on their phone. And the thing is that poker players love the idea of being able to sext on their phones while also playing poker. And that results in you having a big edge because the tournament director is not going to ban them from sexting on their phones. Therefore, you can still use these tools. Should they not be allowed? Yeah, they probably shouldn't be allowed. But, it's not enforceable. If you look at every high-stakes tournament, like the really high-stakes tournaments, you know what all the good players do? Myself included. After you play a hand, if you don't know what you were supposed to do in this spot, you write the hand, and you send it to your guy at home who runs it through the GTO solver and sends you the answer back in 5 minutes. That way you get immediate feedback on these very, very difficult scenarios over and over and over and over and over again. Should you be allowed to get an immediate answer about your hand as soon as you play it? I don't know. It's a tough one, right? But it's what happens. So, as long as tools are allowed, then you should use the tools available, right? They don't let you use your phones during hands. Corey, did I say use this tool during hands? Please listen to what I'm saying. Please listen to what I'm saying. Please listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying, before the hand starts, dealer shuffling the cards. You have 12 big blinds in the hijack seat. Okay? If the dealer is shuffling the cards, you are allowed to use your phone to do whatever you want. What's this app called? Search Poker Coaching in the iTunes or Android App Store. Does PioSolver have a mobile app? No, absolutely not. So, pull up this chart right here on your phone, same one I'm looking at on the screen here. Pull up this and look at it. And you are going to realize, okay, if I have the 10-7 suited, I fold this. If I have the King 10 offsuit, I min raise this. Okay? And then you put your phone away or put it face down on the rail. Whatever, right? And then you get dealt your King Queen 10 offsuit and they fold to you. And you know, if you're using a little bit of common sense, look to the left. Are the players on your left excited about their hands? Are they getting ready to play? If they're getting ready to play, fold your Queen 10 offsuit. If they look normal, or if they're like already folding out a turn, raise your Queen 10 offsuit, right? Okay? Good. If you're not sexting at the table, are you playing poker incorrectly? Oh, no. The recreational players are usually the ones who are sending the sex messages. If you are a professional player, though, you're usually getting input on the hands that you played recently. Okay? Use the tools available to achieve the things you want in life. All right. By the way, we have a disclaimer on these charts. I don't think you can actually see it. It says, these are meant for study purposes only. Make sure you check the terms and conditions of the site that you play because the sites that you play on may not allow these charts. For example, I know GG Poker does not allow these charts. They do not allow any GTO charts. No. Are they going to do anything about it? Probably not, but they may, and that's not my problem if they do. So make sure you follow the rules of the place that you play. And if your casino outlaws these things, then don't use them, right? All right, let's take a look at button strategy. 12 big blinds deep. Lots of min raising, as you see. And again, notice that this min raising range stays a pretty consistent 10-ish% of hands, right? So, essentially what that lets you know is that you want to be min raising your best hands, plus an adequate number of bluffs. Let's go back to under the gun. It's like 8 to 10% of hands that opt to min raise. And it's roughly the same premium hands in all scenarios, plus the hands that are not quite good enough to shove. So you see under the gun, 8% of hands min raising. Lojack seat, 8% of hands min raising, right? Button, 10% of hands min raising, right? But you see it's roughly the same premium hands. It's always the same premium hands that play well enough post flop, and then hands that are not quite good enough to shove. Hands that often love to shove are the ace-x offsuit and the small pairs. And the medium connected high card hands, right? All right. Let's look at small blind strategy, 12 big blinds deep. This is going to be very similar to 10 big blind strategy. By the way, you can compare them very easily on the charts. Just click on 10 big blinds. 51% all in, 28% shove, 10 big blinds deep, 51-28. Here we are at 42, so fewer all-ins and more limps, right? And that's because you have to shove less often as you're shoving more and more chip stacks. Or more and more, what am I saying? More and more big blinds. I read the chip stack over here in the chat. As you're shoving more and more big blinds, you have to shove fewer hands. But you get to limp more hands. And again, you see all the hands that opt to limp are the hands that flop very, very well, right? Plus a smattering of junk. Let's see. What are all of you saying? Are you all enjoying the show? If you're enjoying the show, do me a favor, click the like button, click subscribe. I would appreciate it. All right. We're going to see big blind, by the way. Big blind versus limp from small blind. You see, same story, right? Still shoving the ace-x and king-x offsuit a ton. A ton. Still shoving the small pairs a ton. And that's that. Can someone block this person? Block user on YouTube. There you go. I did it for you. Add to block list. Did it. Thank you. All right. James Stays, good morning. Hope all of you are having a great day. You wish you could get these charts for free. Well, Twisted, you wanna bootleg them, screenshot them. I'm not going to be offended. Wow, 100% of the time with aces in the small blind, that's interesting. Well, okay, so you want to go back to small blind chart? Small blind chart, raise first in, you limp your aces. Yeah, you always limp the best hands, right? So whenever you limp all of these good hands, some people may ask, why are you limping aces, kings, queens, jacks, ace, king suited? You're limping all of these really good hands here, and all these hands that flop well, with the idea that, well, let me show you. Small blind versus raise from big blind. You see, this is our strategy now. This is how we are going to reply, right? We are still, if we limp our aces, big blind min raises, or raises 2.5x, 3x, whatever it is, we call with our aces. We continue slow playing the aces. Why? Because they're the super nuts. Same thing with jacks, tens, right? All these hands are super nuts, and you really want to keep your opponent in the pot. These hands in the middle here, you want to try to flop well. If you flop well, you go from there. These junky hands, you also call, because you're getting good odds. And then the worst hands, you fold. You may say, limp and then call a small raise with a jack 5 offsuit? Yeah. Pot odds exist. Believe it or not, pot odds exist when you are playing no limit Texas style. Versus an all-in, what am I doing here? Small blind. Am I missing a chart? Let's see. Versus all-in, opponent position. All right. Maybe we found a bug today. Whenever you find a bug, write it down. Go fix it. SB 12BB versus BBAI. Fortunately, it's going to be pretty easy for you to figure out. You call your best hands, fold your junk. I can already tell you that. Let's see if we're missing the chart 10 big blinds deep. Let me reload this page. I feel like we have this chart. Like I said, all of this stuff is a work in progress. What was I looking at? 12 big blinds, small blind, versus all in. All right, looks like we're just straight up missing it. Okay, fine, good. Okay, 15 big blind deep. Early position strategy. JL, there's not a like button on your screen. Well, that's not good. Guess you can't like it then. All right, 15 big blinds deep. This is where people torch their money. Let me go over here and show you 15 big blind deep, all in or fold strategy. 13% of hands you get to play. But if you min raise, you get to play 15% of hands. Again, we saw a solid 15-ish, 20%-ish increase. But you're going to be able to play this whole range way more profitably. Notice, the Gto strategy much prefers to min raise all these hands over shoving all of these hands. And again, a lot of people are really uncomfortable with the idea of I'm going to min raise under the gun with any hand and then fold it to a shove. But that is the proper play. Let's take a look versus all in from, let's say, under the gun +1. Very, very easy strategy. Call with your best hands, fold your junk, right? Nice and easy. You may say, min raise ace jack and fold it? Yep. Min raise ace jack and then fold it. That is the play. Does this only apply to tournaments? No, this also applies to cash games, but these charts are set up to include an ante, okay? If there's not an ante, you will need to play tighter. Our push-fold chart has that really easy over here. You can, slightly off the page, you can go over here and select no antes, big blind ante, or normal ante, and it takes care of that for you. Again, push-fold chart's completely free. But again, you see a very big difference in strategy in these scenarios. By the way, when you min raise and face an under the gun shove, you're going to call tighter than when you face, let's say, a button shove, right? Notice here, against a button shove, you call wider. Like ace-jack offsuit calls against the button, but folds against under the gun +1. You may say, why would you fold getting the same pot odds? Well, you're against a slightly wider range, right? If you're against a slightly wider range, that forces you to call off a little bit more. Okay? You really shouldn't be playing 15 big blinds deep in cash games. Some casinos, that's how they operate. I know there's a game in California at a major casino. You buy in 20 big blinds deep. It's a rake trap. They rake you to death. Probably no one wins in that game. But, you know, if you're going to play, you might as well play it well, right? Make sure you account for rake in cash games. That also forces you to play tighter, all right? How much is the premium membership per month? Normal price, $99 per month, but you can get discounts every once in a while. I know Valentine's Day is coming up. Something's telling me we may give you all a Valentine's Day sale. If you're in love, or you want to be in love, we'll have a Valentine's Day sale for you. You'll be able to get a little bit of a discount on the premium membership. Okay? 15 big blinds deep. Okay, what are we looking at here? Let's go back to under the gun. Raise first in. You see almost no shoving. As we get in later positions, though, we're going to start shoving a little bit more. Right? So now you see in, let's say, the hijack seat, you see we're shoving now. Again, same logic applies. Ace-X offsuit, low ace-X suited, good suited high cards, and small pairs. Same story, right? From the button. Same logic, right? Min raise the best hands. Min raise some junk. Shove, ace-X offsuit, ace-X suited, middle connected hands, small pairs. Okay? Also keep in mind these charts do not adjust for ICM. Yeah! If your chart does not account, well, most charts do not account for ICM unless you build that in, and ICM is really difficult to account for because stack depths are all very, very relevant. Like, for example, if we have 15 big blinds, there's all big stacks on our left. That's a very different scenario than if we have 15 big blinds, it's all 15 big blind stacks on our left. Or if we have 15 big blinds and everybody on our left has 10 big blinds, it changes everything, right? Anyway, yeah, these charts do not account for ICM, and you should adjust accordingly. Usually the adjustments are kind of logical. Like usually you should shove wider in various scenarios. We discuss all this thoroughly at pokercoaching.com. If you are a premium member and you have access to all of these charts, then you also have access to my tournament masterclass. Long tournament course, about 45 hours long. I realize it's a lot. It's for people who are really devoted to getting good at poker. If that's not you, that's A-okay. It is for the sharks out there, though. And make sure you check out the ICM section where I go through various adjustments you should be making. That way, you're not lost in any of those scenarios. Okay, 15 big blinds deep on the button. As you see, lots of min raising. Again, let's go over here to the Push Fold app. If you use this Push Fold app, 15 big blinds deep, I already told you, you are torching your money. You get to play 37% of hands in this scenario. Here you get to play 40-ish% of hands, right? So again, solid increase just by playing a better strategy. When you play a better strategy, you make more money. Again, I want to make this clear. If you want to go to the poker tournament to smoke your cigars, drink your bottles of wine, and sext on your phone while you're playing, there's nothing wrong with using a really easy strategy, because you know you're losing your money anyway. You don't really care. You want to lose it as slow as possible, and you want to make it really, really easy for you. If you want to make it really easy for you, use a shuffle chart. It's not ideal, but it's better than just like blindly guessing, right? So if that's what you're going to do, then fine. Use this. Again, this is just completely free for everybody. You don't have to pay me any money. I know there are various people out there who sell basic apps like this that have push-pull charts. It's just free. I don't think you need to pay for really basic information, especially if it's really, really easy to misapply and it's going to cost you a lot of money. But people ask for this, so I give it to you. But if you do want to really do your best to maximize your equity and still use what is a relatively easy strategy, right? We see here, it's just min raise or fold. It's not, well, all in min raise or fold. It's not like this is super advanced or anything. I tried to keep it as reasonable as possible for everyone to implement. We didn't use limping. We didn't use various raise sizing because that really doesn't add a whole lot of value to your strategy. But this is what you want to be doing in this spot. Where do you find this chart? These charts are in the tools section at pokercoaching.com. Go to sign into pokercoaching.com. Click on the tools section. As you see, we have a bunch of tools available for you. These are the GTO MTT preflop charts. We also have GTO cash game charts for deeper stacked play. Tournament charts, by the way, go up to 80 big blinds, right? So we have all sorts of stack depths here. We're adding more all the time. Okay, let's take a look at small blind strategy. It's going to be roughly the same as 12 big blind strategy. Well, similar enough. Let's take a look at this, actually. Obviously, you're going to be shoving less as you get deeper and deeper, right? So here's 12 big blind, shoving 42%. Here's 15 big blinds, we're shoving 23%, okay? All right. So as you see, roughly same strategy. Let's take a look at big blind strategy versus small blind limp. Okay, same strategy as before, right? Except we're shoving fewer ace-x and king-x because we're shoving for more big blinds, right? Something you may also not realize you need to be doing is min-raising all these junky hands. Take a look at this, right? You're well, not min-raising, I think you're 3xing it here. You are 3xing it with all of the best hands, and you're calling it off against the shove, of course. And then you are 3xing it with all of this junk. You may say, why are we 3xing with all this junk? Because we're 3xing with all these nut hands, right? As you raise with more nut hands, you get to min-raise with some bluffs. Notice the bluffs that are mostly preferred are like King X, Queen X, Jack X, 10X, these relatively high blocker hands. That said, just like total airballs are raising as well. 3-2 offsuit, 7-2 offsuit, 7-3 offsuit, 8-3 offsuit. If you are not raising over small blind limps with a 7-3 offsuit, a decent chunk of the time, as we see here, 54% of the time, 15 big blinds deep, you are leaving money on the table. And I don't want you to leave money on the table. I want you all to play very, 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 very well. I want you to be the shark, right? All right, let's take a look at 20 big blind charts. This is where people really start torching their money. 15 big blinds deep. If you use the shove fold strategy, you're only losing some money. A pretty good amount. You don't want to do it. But 20 big blinds deep, this is where if you follow these shove fold charts, you are just, you're like, here, take it. Take the money. I don't want the money. I don't want it. That's what you're doing if you use the shove or fold chart. It seems like aces don't go all in very often. Yeah, aces don't go all in very often because your opponents are drawing so thin to the point that you really want to keep them in the pot. You have to understand that when you have the aces, your opponent is drawing thin to dead. And if they're drawing thin to dead, you want them in the pot badly. Also, very important, by not getting it all into the aces, you protect your passive range, right? Your limping and then calling range. And when you protect your limping and then calling range, that allows you to play more weak hands in that manner. If your limping and calling range is all garbage, then your opponent just has to be aggressive and they'll crush you. But if you protect it by limping a lot of your best hands, or min-raising and then just calling a 3-bet or whatever with all of your best hands, that forces your opponents to be way more cautious when they do face your passive line. Something a lot of people do wrong, we discussed this in my free fundamentals course at pokercoaching.com/fundamentals, is they play all of their strong hands aggressively and all of their marginal and weak hands passively. And that makes their passive range very, very, very unprotected. So all they have to do, or all you have to do to beat those players, is just be aggressive. Apply aggression and you'll crush them. Okay, let's go over here to the push fold app again. Let's look at 20 big blinds deep, under the gun. Again, don't use this strategy. You get to play a whopping 8% of hands if you use the shove fold strategy. But if you use a min-raise shove or fold strategy, notice no shoves are actually used, you get to play 17% of hands, basically double. You get to play twice as many hands by using a better strategy. Would you like to play twice as many hands profitably? The answer is yes, I would. I would much, much, much prefer to play twice as many hands profitably. Okay? So this is a spot where you want to be min-raising. You do not want to be open ripping it in 20 big blinds deep. Now, again, ICM starts to become very important as we get a little bit deeper in this scenario. There are certainly spots in tournaments with payout implications, where like you're on the bubble or whatnot, where you do want to just open shove some of these hands here. And the reason is because you don't really want to min-raise and then face a shove and then have to call off with ace, jack suited or whatever, because you're not in especially great shape, right? You're roughly flipping and you don't want to be flipping in these bubble scenarios, right? So you will need to adjust this when there are payout implications, and you have to use a little bit of logic to do that. And I discuss how to do this in the tournament masterclass, so make sure you go through and check all of that out. Anyway, in this scenario, as you see, This is this strategy. Let's take a look at the buttons. Let's go to Lojack Strategy first. Still all min raises, 20 big blinds deep. What about Cutoff? Are we shoving anything yet? Nope. All min raising as well from the Cutoff. Logical range here. You may be surprised to see stuff like King 4 suited, Queen 6 suited, Jack 7 suited, Ace 6 suited min raising. These hands are just good enough to raise from the Cutoff though. Button strategy. Now we start seeing some shoves. Very few though. Relatively few shoves. By the way, let's go over here 20 big blinds deep. From the button, show what a shove fold strategy is. Oh, use the wrong one. 33% of hands get to play from if using a shove fold strategy, or 43% of hands get to play using a min raise shove or fold strategy. Would you like to play an extra 10-15% of hands profitably? Yes! You'd like to make more money. My job here is to make all of you more money by giving you better strategies to use. Okay? So make sure you're using the better strategies. Is anyone still here? No one's typed anything. You must be just loving the content, huh? If you love the content, click the like button, click subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Do we have a raise fold range? Of course we do. Let me show you. If we are on the button versus an all-in from the small blind, let's say, here's our strategy, right? We min raise all of these hands selected, and then we call off the hands in green. We fold the hands in blue. It's all in the charts. It's all here in the charts for you. Okay? So, that's all there for you. What about against the big blinds? We roughly the same strategy, right? Because you're getting basically the same odds against basically the same shoving range, right? Okay. All right, let's look at small blind strategy. Raise first in. As we see here, what in the world is this? Well, this is an error. Good, more errors. 20 big blinds deep. Green down here is just open fold. Don't know why it's displaying like this. Can they track us if you're using these charts? Look, I already told you, don't break the terms and conditions of your site, okay? That said, some of these sites, as far as I know, can see your screen while you're playing, which is why you don't do things like use the various charts, right? And you don't cheat, right? Because they can see your screen. So can they track you? In theory, yes, if you just have this open on your phone using it, or open on your computer using it. That said, do they know you're playing the GTO strategy? In theory, yes. Like, I know Party Poker has ways to tell, are people using the perfect GTO strategy? I know GG does as well, right? And the thing is, though, is that, like, push fold scenarios, it's just like, it's fine, right? I mean, you have to realize, sites don't really care if you're playing well. Most sites are not going to ban you for winning if you are winning in a very reasonable way. They don't want you like only playing against really, really bad players and crushing them. But if you're playing tournaments, you're registering the tournaments, you're playing the tournaments, nobody gets banned for playing tournaments. And if you use the perfect GTO preflop strategy short stack, it's just fine. Nobody cares, right? What they don't want you doing is they do not want you using the perfect GTO strategy in literally every scenario, because that's impossible for us humans to do, right? Okay. Anyway, let's go look at what else I wanted to show you. Let's take a look at 20 big blinds deep. I want to be under the gun. I want to be versus an all-in from various positions. I wanted to show you how we are going to proceed versus shoves. So notice, under the gun, we're min-raising all these hands in blue. And then when we get shoved on, we want to be calling off like this. This is what I want to show you. I want to show you something different. I wanted to show you the reshove strategy. Okay. Once we start getting like 15 big blinds or deeper, let's just go back to 15 big blinds so that we fully cover this spot for all of you. Let's say we are under the gun +1 versus a raise from under the gun. Okay? Are you ready? Are you ready? Under the gun min raises, we are under the gun +1. This is our strategy. We are jamming all of the hands in red, and we are folding everything else. There is no calling range. Okay? Fine. Logical. The reason I'm telling you this is because some of these apps that charge you money for simple pre-flop shove or fold charts will give you a reshove only chart, where someone raises, which hands do we shove, which hands do we fold? They don't give the option to call. Let's sneak over here to the button. Woo! Ooh, look at the money you're torching by following a reshove chart. You are torching it by following a reshove chart because from the button you actually do get to call decently wide in this scenario, right? Again, slow playing the aces, 15 big blinds deep, something you'll always discover whenever someone min raises and you're in a spot where you want to have a calling range. Aces always calls when you're shallow. So you're calling all these hands that flop reasonably well, right? Calling aces, and then you're shoving all of these high equity hands. So if someone min raises under the gun and you're on the button, this is your strategy. Small blind, in tournaments, you also get to have a pretty wide calling range. You may say, why? I thought we were supposed to shove or fold everything from the small blind. That is when we're playing with an ante in play. That's when we're playing cash games. I'm sorry, that's when we're playing without an ante in play. That's when we're playing cash games that have a rake, etc. That's when you want to be doing mostly 3-betting or folding from the small blind. In tournaments, you actually do get to do a lot of calling from the small blind because you're usually facing a smaller raise and you're getting good odds. Okay? Big blind raise versus, or big blind versus an under the gun min raise, as you see a whole load of calling, right? This is, again, another spot where a lot of people torch their money because they decided to use the all-in or fold strategy where whenever someone min raises, they think their only options are to shove or fold. And it's not. We are playing no limit Texas Hold'em. That means any amount between the minimum and the maximum. Some people think the only options are exactly the maximum or the minimum. There's some amount in the middle where you get to call, see the flop. And as we see here, you get to do a whole load of calling. Okay? All right. Okay. Is there a site that tells you what sizes are used in these simulations? If you have any questions, just send us an email, support@pokercoaching.com. I believe we have instructions somewhere on our site for this. I'm sure we do somewhere. But no, just send us an email if you have any questions. Support@pokercoaching.com. I see every email that comes in. I want to help all of you become the best poker players you can be. And either I'll answer you, one of our support team will answer you, and we'll make sure you get the info you need. All right, let's go over here to 20 big blinds deep. Again, this is a spot where a lot of people really screw up, and they use a shove or fold strategy against a raise. But take a look at this. 20 big blinds deep, under the gun +1 against under the gun min raise. You do a lot of flat calling. Now we start seeing small 3-bet ranges as well. I'm not going to say you have to use this small 3-bet strategy. If you wanted to shove a lot of these hands or call a lot of these hands in pink, I think that's certainly reasonable, right? To make your life easier, right? You see the pink range is relatively small. So if in this scenario, if you wanted to use just like shove ace-king suited and ace-king offsuit, I think it's like fine. Again, you have to ask, am I trying to play a really implementable strategy or would I rather play a slightly more difficult strategy? But what you don't want to do here is you do not want to use shove or fold only. You don't want to do shove or fold only because you're torching your money. And please, don't torch your money. Play well. Do a little bit of studying, right? Don't think that poker is some really easy game where you can get a shove or fold chart, blindly follow it, and print money. It's not how it works. Hate to break it to you. Sorry. Poker's kind of hard. Okay. So anyway, as you see here, under the gun +1, you do get to have a flat calling range. It's actually pretty wide. And this is a big difference between 15 big blinds and 20 big blinds, right? 15 big blinds, you're shoving everything. 20 big blinds, you're calling a lot, right? Very important. Wow, my boy told me to never flat and always just 3-bet. It's easier. But as we see here, Gto Strategy is to flat call a lot. Let's see. Cutoff seat. More calling. Now. When we're playing tournaments, again, you're going to want to shy away from playing some of these marginal spots. And I want to make it clear, all these hands, like on the cusp, especially the mixed hands here that are like mid-call sometimes or folded sometimes, these hands are all like roughly break even. So in tournaments, I definitely think you probably should shave off the bottom portion of these hands that are like barely profitable. And also I would tell you to make your life easy by, you see this 3-bet small range is really tiny compared to the all-in and call strategies. So I would just get rid of those and just shove them or call them. Either one's fine. But you see still here a pretty good amount of calling against the under the gun raise, right? And that is very valuable. What about if we're in the cutoff against a hijack raise, though? Does that change things? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Everything changes everything. In this scenario, you see now a whole lot of just shoving, right? Lots more shoving. Still some calling, but lots of shoving, right? Let's go back to against under the gun, and let's take a look at button strategy. It's going to be a whole lot of calling as well, right? All these hands that flop well want to call, right? And all the hands that have good equity, but, flop a little bit worse, want to shove. Small blind strategy against under the gun. starts to get a little bit different as well. Small blind's an interesting spot where you play a little bit differently in small blind compared to basically every other position. Usually 3-bet way more linearly from the small blind, which means just your best hands. And we see that very clearly here. A lot of the best hands just 3-bet / shove. From the big blind, also same logic applies to some extent, but you get to call way more from the big blind because you're getting really, really good odds and you are closing the action, right? Is this video going to be on YouTube? Yes. Okay. Let's take a look at big blind. Let's go back over here and look at button versus cutoff. Because we know button versus under the gun, we still have a pretty wide calling range, right? Let's take a look at button versus cutoff, though. Button versus cutoff, we actually shove a lot. And this makes sense if you think about it, right? Whenever under the gun min raises, we're facing a very, very strong range. Therefore, we don't want to just be ripping it in all that often, right? But whenever cutoff raises, cutoff is min raising a much wider range, which allows us yet to act on the button, small blind, or big blind to then shove substantially wider. Okay? Let's go over here and show small blind strategy against cutoff. As you see, pretty wide shoving range. Again, let's take a look at small blind versus cutoff. We are shoving a lot because cutoff range is kind of wide. Same thing against button, right? Against button range, we shove a lot. But against under the gun, we call a lot, right? Because under the gun is raising a stronger range. This is all common sense if you think about it. If you're against a stronger range, you shove less. You're against a weaker range, you shove more. Let's look at let's go over here and look at big blind versus under the gun. Same story, just a whole load of calling. Whereas if we look at big blind versus button, we see more shoving, right? Big blind versus small blind gets a little bit tricky. This is one of these weird spots where this chart presumes the opponent's using the Gto strategy for the small blind, which may or may not be the case, because that's where people really, really deviate a lot. You see only ace-x and low pair shoving, but against most people, if they 3x it, you can probably shove pretty wide because they will not defend often enough. Why should you steer a bit more linearly from the small blind? Typically because we're out of position. When you're out of position, you're going to find usually a much more linear strategy is used when 3-betting. I'll show you. Like, let's look at 40 big blinds deep, right? We have 30 big blind charts coming very soon. Let's take a look at small blind versus raise from the cutoff. You see, very linear 3-betting strategy. Something you may look at here. 40 big blinds deep, we're shoving? No way! Yes way. Turns out 40 big blinds deep, you can still rip it all in when there's an ante in play, when you're out of position. Small blind loves to have a shoving strategy. Usually with the ace-king offsuit, ace-queen offsuit type hands, the middle pair type hands, and some of the middle connected type hands. Let's take a look at versus button. You're going to shove even wider 40 big blinds deep, right? Let's go over here and look at button strategy, though. Button versus cutoff raise. What did I do wrong? Oh, I see what I did wrong. Button versus cutoff raise. There we go. No shoving, right? Because when you're in position, you want to shove way less often. In position, you don't shove as often because you get to play post flop, right? Let's take a look at 40 big blinds deep big blind versus a cutoff raise. You see now, get to shove a little bit as well because you're out of position, right? Out of position, you want to be applying aggression more pre-flop to take away the fact that you are out of position post-flop. So anyway, all of this today for the last hour is to show you very clearly that you do not want to follow a push-fold chart and a push-fold or a reshove or fold chart whenever you are playing shallow stacked, right? 10 big blinds are shorter. Sure, it's not that big of a deal. But with any other deeper stack depth, 12, 15, 20 big blinds, you really want to be using a strategy that's closer to the Gto strategy because that lets you play more hands profitably. And if you get to play, let's say, 20% of hands, and your opponent gets to play 15% of hands because they're just using a straight-up worse strategy than you are going to make more money long-term. Twisted Tony says, you've been torching your effing money. You've been just throwing it away. Well, now, after today, you get to take some back. Take a little bit back, take a little bit back, take a little bit back, and that's going to result in more money being in your pocket. Now, I will say that you have to learn how to play well after the flop in order to justify using a min-raising strategy. Because you're going to min-raise, big blind is going to call. And then you got to play after the flop. And a lot of people are deathly afraid to play after the flop. But fortunately, it's not actually all that difficult. Let me show you. Let's say we raise the Lojack. I know, I want to put us in the big blind. Let's put us in the big blind versus a raise from the Lojack seat. You see, we're supposed to call a lot, 15 big blinds deep, right? This makes you have to play post flop. Makes a Lojack play post flop, and you, and the big blind, play post flop. And if you are screwing this up left and right, you're also going to torch your money. So you want to make sure you play well after the flop. We have my tournament masterclass at pokercoaching.com that goes through a ton of scenarios, 20 big blinds deep, which roughly you can extrapolate to 15 big blinds deep, and 40 big blinds deep, which will apply to, 30, 40, 50 big blinds for the most part. It's roughly close enough. I tried to go through and give you very common spots that you could then extrapolate a little bit from to cover all the other common spots. What I don't want you to be doing is thinking you have to memorize post-flop strategies for 15, 18, 20, 22, 25 big blinds. That's kind of overkill. I realize all of us do not have a million hours to study. But if you do want to succeed at poker, you do need to study a decent amount. And you need to make sure you understand the basics. And this type of thing is kind of the basics. You need to understand how to play reasonably well pre-flop and reasonably well post-flop. This is reasonably well pre-flop. There's just an app for it, poker coaching app. Go get it. And it's on pokercoaching.com. And post-flop, I go through all of that in the tournament masterclass, so please make sure you check that out. So is this min-raising and not 3xing? Tony, whenever it is folded to you, you are using a min-raise or fold or all-in strategy. Min-raise, 2 big blinds. And unless you're in the small blind, that said, we use a limp or shove strategy from small blind, mostly spots. From small blind, you raise to 3x. From the big blind facing a limp from small blind, you also raise to 3x. So 2x from all spots except for small blind and big blind. Why does a7 suited shove here and not, let's say, a6 suited? Slightly higher equity, I guess. I don't know. I mean, look, there are a lot of spots where the solver does various kind of odd mixing. You'll see the small pairs do some funny stuff sometimes. You'll see the ace-x suited do some funny stuff sometimes. And, I mean, in reality, because it's the most profitable play. That's what the answer is. If it's the most profitable play, then you do it. Hello, Oscar. Are we live? We're live for about another 1 minute. We're packing up the show soon. Hope you all learned a lot today. If you learned a lot, let me know. This is the kind of stuff we have at pokercoaching.com. Again, in the tournament masterclass, I, of course, go through all of this. You all told me you wanted a tool you could use at the table / away from the table to study, so I made it for you. Listen, you all tell me what to do. You are my boss, okay? And you tell me what you want. I give you what you want. It's really what it amounts to. And I want to do my best to help you all improve your skills. With Queen Jack suited, does this mean we call half the time and shove half the time? Yeah. So in this scenario, this is how you read this chart. 15 big blinds deep, we're in the big blind, versus a raise from the Lojack. Lojack is under the gun, 6-handed, so like middle position. So what do? We shove all the hands in red, call all the hands in green, fold all the hands in blue. Okay? Queen Jack suited, yeah. Shoves all in half the time, calls half the time. Right? There you go. Jack 10 suited mixes it up a little bit as well. Ace 10 offsuit mixes up a little bit as well. You can see here, Ace 7 off or Ace 10 offsuit shoves 7% of the time. You need to study this chart. We got to study all of the charts. And again, this is not a strategy of I need to memorize this particular chart. You need to understand principles that come from all of this, right? Can you go over calling rejams? Usually that's pretty easy. I'm not going to go through it because we've already been going an hour here. But let's just take a look really quick. Let's say we raise Lojack seat versus an all-in from the cutoff. It's just a straight math problem here, right? You call the hands that are getting good equity and you fold the ones that aren't. Usually your strategy is going to be lined up to where it's pretty obvious what to do because you shove a lot of the medium strength hands. Like you see King Jack offsuit, King 10 suited, Queen Jack suited, Ace 2 suited, small pairs. These are not here, right? Because we would have shoved them. Usually you call the best hands, which is like all pairs that you have in your range. Then the good Ace-X and King Queen. And that's usually what you're going to end up doing. Lojack versus button, 15 big blinds deep. You see, same thing, right? This is not really the hard part. Also, this part changes a lot based on what your opponents do, right? Like, say you raise in a super tight player shoves, you call tighter, right? If you min raise and then a very maniacal player shoves, you have to call off much wider because you like Ace 4 suited is going to be in pretty good shape against a much more maniacal shover. Oh, do you hear Thomas outside screaming? Thomas is so sad we're giving away the secrets of how to beat maniacs today. As we see, 20 big blinds deep, if we're a little bit deeper, you see we're going to call off a little bit less, right? We're going to have a slightly wider folding range, it looks like. But we're going to call off proportionally less because we're facing a bigger shove, right? Lojack versus hijack all in. You see we're going to call off a little bit tighter because their range to shove should be a little bit tighter. All right. That's going to be it. Hope you enjoyed this today. If you did, throw me a like. We've also been uploading a bunch of videos on YouTube, by the way. If you want a little bit more content from me, head over to youtube.com/pokercoaching. There we have lots and lots of high-level strategy videos. I'm glad that some of you learned something today. It seems like Tony loved that he learned a lot today. Make sure you check out this chart. Again, these are available on your poker coaching app. Hold the phone right side up, not upside down. And that's going to be it for today. If you want a free trial membership to pokercoaching.com, get that at pokercoaching.com/free. What else? What else? Can I give away some more money here? Oh, yeah. We're having a giveaway. Check that out at pokercoaching.com/pokerafterdark. You all told me that you would love to be able to play on TV with me. So I'm giving you a chance. Go to pokercoaching.com/pokerafterdark to enter that giveaway where we're giving away a $5,000 buy-in to come play with me on Poker After Dark on TV next season. I don't know when next season's going to be. Probably middle of the year, end of the year, next year, who knows. But we are doing that. Make sure you get in that giveaway because, you're going to get to play a six-handed sit and go with a $5,000 buy-in where you have a chance to win a total of $30,000. Wouldn't that be fun? Do we have payment options? I think we do. Send us an email. Listen, if you have any questions about payments, if you have any questions about the site, whatever, send us an email at support@pokercoaching.com. I am happy to answer your questions and help you in any way that I can. That is my job, to help you become the best poker player you can possibly be. And today, gave you easy strategies to make sure you are not torching your money. Jack says, don't be cheap, just get the premium, it's well worth it. Look, I understand that everybody does not have lots of income, which is why I made the site all-inclusive and call it only $100 per month. I realize $100 a month is a lot, but when I first started playing poker, I had a $50 bankroll, right? $100 a month is a lot for a $50 bankroll, which is why I have lots of stuff available for free, $0. I'm making a point to give you the tools you need to succeed so that you can start winning money. You start winning money, you want to learn more, you start paying me for full access to all of the content that I have available, right? Essentially, I help you. Hopefully, down the road, you help me by paying for Poker Coaching Premium. That said, if you are playing poker at all, really, if you are playing any sort of medium stakes, if you're playing $100 buy-in tournaments, live or online, if you're playing, 25 cent, 50 cent, you need to be spending money on good study material. You would not try to go become a doctor and just say, nah, I don't want to go to college, too expensive. That would be ridiculous, right? If you want to get good at something, and you want to get good at something kind of quickly, you probably want to get resources that are going to help you get good as quickly as possible. Do we have cash game charts this detailed? Of course we do. Go to GTO cash game charts. Click right here. We have 100, 150, and 200 big blind charts. So, you just go through here, under the gun +1. If the program's going to function. Program not going to function for me. Don't embarrass me, chart. Program should function. If it doesn't, we're going to fix it. Oh, here we go. Mild glitch, I guess. Okay, as you see here, under gun charts, let's say versus 3-bet from, I don't know, small blind. Shows you what you should do, right? We also have versus 5-bet, all in. Shows us what we should do. So yes, we do. Again, all of this is here. College is a bad example. College is expensive. Yeah, see, college costs you, I don't know, how much is a cheap college? $10,000 per year? We're nowhere near that price. So if you care about getting good at poker, you should probably spend a little bit of money. Now, I'm not saying you need to be spending $500 per month on a training site like some of the very, very high quality ones out there do charge you, because we offer roughly the same content, actually sometimes more, and a much, much cheaper price. I tried to make things cheap because I didn't come from money, right? I started with a $50 bankroll. And I worked hard. I grinded hard. I studied hard. And I'm taking everything that I know. Also, getting together all of our coaches. We have all these quizzes here with all the coaches to help give you everything you need to succeed at the game. As you see, we have all of these quizzes. We're on quiz number 1,137, featuring all of our coaches here. We also have the classes. These are, hour-long videos on specific topics. Often these are filmed live, so you can ask your questions in real time. Here's me reviewing a $500 win for $25,000 that I won a few weeks ago. We have Faraz Jaka reviewing $2,500 buy-in tournaments. Tommy Angelo has office hours where you can call in and ask him your questions live, right? We have all sorts of stuff here. All sorts of stuff available. Check it out, pokercoaching.com/free. Anyway, have a great day. If you want to get good at anything quickly, hire a coach. Hire someone to give you the information you need so that you don't waste your time learning yourself. If you wanted to learn to become a brain surgeon without hiring a coach / going to college / medical school, it would take you a really, really long time to figure out how to get it right. Poker's not quite brain surgery, but it's kind of similar. If you want to get good quickly, find someone to help you improve quickly, to give you the tools you need and the knowledge you need so that you don't waste your time. Listen. The only resource you have in this world that you cannot replenish is time. And I suppose relationships. You do not want to squander relationships, and you do not want to squander time. And a great way to squander your time is to play poker without actually knowing what you are doing. So please, please, please don't waste your time doing nonsense. I could go on and on about this forever. Have a great day. Thank you for being here. If you liked today's show, click the like button. If you want to check out poker coaching, check it out, pokercoaching.com/free. If you want to get in the giveaway to win a $5,000 seat to play with me on Poker After Dark, check that out at pokercoaching.com/pokerafterdark. Have a great day. Thank you for being here. Good luck in your games, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.